You may have heard in the national news recently that the government has filed a lawsuit for monopoly practices against Live Nation. In today's episode, I just wanted to chat about Live Nation and this idea of have they become too big? All right, so we're here with my buddy Billy. The government has filed a lawsuit against Live Nation.
Yep.
And it is a lawsuit claiming that they have become a monopoly as far as the entertainment industry has gone. And Billy, here, you worked for a promoter, a small local promoter for many years, and you do have some insights into this business as a whole.
Yep.
So basically the government says because of Live Nation's holdings in multiple pieces of the entertainment industry that they filed a lawsuit saying it's possible at this point that they need to be broken up. And just for some context, Live Nation back in 1996 began selling off multiple parts of their business that was not involved in like live entertainment. And then in 2006, 10 years later, they began aggressively buying up lots of pieces of the entertainment business that they didn't own, eventually deciding that Ticketmaster should be in their portfolio. So tell us a little bit, back it up a little bit, and then tell us what you think.
So I think it's important to understand what's all working here. So you kind of have four pieces to this equation. You've got the artist. I think that's pretty understood who they are.
Right.
Who they are. And their management. Artist management. We'll kind of loop them into the same thing.
Sure.
Promoters, which we'll come back to in a minute. A venue. I think everyone understands what a venue is as well.
Right.
And then the ticketing part, which we'll get to that as well in a second. So let's start with promoters, because that's really what Live Nation kind of started with, to your point, in 1996, at least in this case. And so, promoters' main job is to kind of look at whether they're regionally, nationally, they're bringing the acts in. They're kind of the go-between between venues and artists management. So they're looking at listening reports, music purchase reports, back when people purchased music in stores, and looking at all these different things to understand what artist is going to be successful. What does my market want? What artist is going to sell well? It's a business. They're looking at selling, but they're also trying to bring in an artist that we know that region enjoys.
Right.
So that's where they're starting, and they're kind of that go in between the artist and the venue. So that's where Live Nation was until they kind of started to have these agreements coming out with artists and artist management, where they're like, look, we've kind of grown pretty large. We have a pretty good foothold with a lot of venues across the country. Let's start kind of having some exclusive, or at least mostly exclusive, tours with some of these artists. And then they kind of started getting into contracts in a similar sense with venues. So next thing you know, they're kind of dictating what artists are going to what venues to an extent, and kind of being in the middle of all of it. Instead of representing as a third party, they're kind of now all of the funnel.
Right.
So that was already one that was getting a little interesting. Before the whole Ticketmaster merger even happened, or the Ticketmaster acquisition even happened, there was a lot of things, and I got to pull up this quote. It was an important one that a favorite band of mine, Lawrence, Mark, if you can link my favorite song up here from Lawrence. This is just one thing he mentioned I think sums that part of this equation up well. In a world where the promoter and venue are not affiliated with each other, we can trust that the promoter will look to get the best deal from the venue. However, in this case, the promoter and venue are part of the same corporate entity, so the line items are essentially Live Nation negotiating to pay itself. I think that kind of sums that up pretty well. So that's kind of getting to this point to where 2010, when the acquisition was approved by the SEC for Live Nation to buy Ticketmaster. So now let's look at the Ticketmaster side of things. Think back to how ticketing was done before Ticketmaster and the online ticket sellers of the world came into play. You went to a venue, you bought a ticket.
And not only that, you had to wait in line.
You had to wait in line. So I know we all don't like paying those fees, and I do appreciate now they have that little toggle where you can browse tickets with fees. That's good. I'm appreciative of that. But ultimately, we're paying for convenience. So Live Nation kind of came to play, or sorry, not Live Nation, Ticketmaster came to play, really starting to offer those convenient ways for you to buy tickets. And they grew very large. And I understand they have it's difficult to look at the fact that they have a large foothold in the industry and people want to complain about that. There's a lot of technology that goes into this.
A ton
of technology. So it can be difficult for venues to have virtually impossible, multiple ticketing systems.
Right.
But that's something they were still able to navigate. There are still venues like Red Rocks who use Axis primarily versus Ticketmaster. So there were ways for venues to negotiate that with Ticketmaster outside of everything going on over here with Live Nation. Well, then Live Nation comes into play in 2010 and buys Ticketmaster. And that's when things just really start to look like a monopoly, in the sense that not only had they really started to control and influence which artists are going to which venues, but then, and this is what they're being accused of, they own the ticketing side too, and they're really having to start strongholding the venues that maybe they don't necessarily own or have direct relationships with into using the ticketing system that they own.
Right.
So, kind of confusing. It's one of those where, Ticketmaster probably has the best, in my opinion, technological setup, and they have a really good market share because of that. And I don't think that's a problem in and of itself, but when you combine it with Live Nation and everything else that they've controlled in that funnel of concerts, it gets a little concerning. And then it just takes something, which I believe this is why the government's looking into it now, something like the Taylor Swift incident, when suddenly what we see as the end of the funnel, which is the Ticketmaster website, starts keeping us, the consumers, from getting a hold of our music or getting a hold of tickets to go see the artists we want to see. It gets frustrating, and that's ultimately what the artist like Clyde Lawrence is upset about, is that he wants this to be an enjoyable experience for his fans, and it's frustrating when fans are on this side, artists are on this side, and everything in the middle is controlled by one company.
Right. And to the credit of the public, we all see this lawsuit and we're immediately rooting at the fact that we feel like Ticketmaster is at fault here. And ultimately, it really isn't Ticketmaster. It's Live Nation, the parent holding company, who kind of has too much control over the marketplace. But the public, dealing with Ticketmaster all the time exclusively, that's who we're always angry with.
You don't often think of the promoter, and Live Nation, they do a great job at promoting, and that's what their core competency was, and Ticketmaster's core competency was tickets or ticket online marketplaces. And then we're just kind of getting to that point now where it's all being controlled by that one company, and when things go awry, people start really looking into, are they the ones who should control every part of this?
Right. And so it's going to be interesting. We're going to see this thing play out. I told Billy we're probably looking at years and years and years. They are going to lawyer up on both sides, and this thing is just going to be a back and forth for the foreseeable future. I do think that they will be forced eventually to get rid of or to sell off Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
I think Ticketmaster was the one step too far. I think if they had not acquired Ticketmaster, I don't think this lawsuit would have been filed.
That and venues too. I mean, I think having those, I don't know if exclusive is even the right word, but having those preferred relationships with preferred artists and preferred venues is going to be that gray area that it's going to be hard to police, even though Live Nation does have venues that they are now like building themselves. So that might be not in the gray area, but that Ticketmaster piece at the very end, it's like, look, we might have to just put up with some of the gray area being worked in of owning the whole funnel from artist all the way through venues, but at least let venues choose how they're going to sell their tickets, and artists choose how they're going to sell their tickets. That's another thing that Clyde Lawrence mentioned. Ticketmaster has created the exclusive contracts. Once you sign that contract, a band is not allowed to come in and say, well, we want to sell our tickets on XYZ platform. And that's ultimately what they're trying to do with artist pre-sales and stuff, not to be handcuffed to one system, even though there is that technological aspect too that just, I don't know, it's not an easy thing to solve, but I do think it's going to come down to them having to split something up, and it's probably going to be Ticketmaster.
I think they'll be forced to get rid of Ticketmaster. And I want to say, I said this the other day to Billy, I don't really think Ticketmaster alone I don't really think they're at fault here. They are the best at what they're doing, and let's all be honest, because I went and saw a show in Nashville, and I didn't have to drive to Nashville. I didn't have to wait in lines. I simply logged on, saw what tickets were available, and for that particular show, I was easily able to grab the tickets. And then the technology now allows you to pass tickets to other people, and it all works on the app, and it's really easy to use.
That's ultimately what those fees are, convenience fees. But typically you got to think about when Ticketmaster was strictly just the ticketing side of this, they don't choose what the price is. The price is agreed upon between the artist, promoter and venue, all protecting their own interests, and then they pass that to Ticketmaster, who tax on the convenience fee that, I mean, it's no difference than Grubhub delivery. You're getting your tickets just brought to you instead of you having to go get it, so that's where those fees come into play. But it is difficult when one company's choosing virtually every aspect of that, which is how much the venue wants, how much the promoter wants, how much the fees are, and what the artist is going to get.
Right. Certainly a fascinating lawsuit, and look forward to following it and seeing how it progresses. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. I can't wait to see you on the next one.